I'm attempting to become the best manager of all time by completing the Glory Hunter Challenge. I've got to win Europe's top 5 domestic leagues, their national cup competitions, as well as all 3 UEFA trophies within 20 seasons. Luckily, I get to choose my first club, but there are some restrictions. I can't pick any teams that won the title last season, and I can't pick a club who's currently top of the table right now. But I think I have found the perfect team. We're starting our journey at Juventus. However, the way the squad fits together doesn't really fit my usual tactical styles, so this could really backfire on us. But this is a work in progress, as in Season 1 we are predicted to finish 4th in the Serie A table. But we're going to know exactly where we stand after our first game of the season against Inter Milan in the Derby d'Italia. 4 minutes into the game and we work the ball out to Timothy Weah on the near side. His man backed off him, allowing him to put a cross in the middle, which the defender helped into the path of Dusan Vlahovic, who gave us the lead. But less than 60 seconds later, whilst we must have still been celebrating, Barella split our defence and it was all too easy for Correa to score past Szczesny. 2 minutes later, we had another great chance, and this time Chiesa dribbled forwards, but his shot was pushed wide by the keeper. And before we could even reach the 15-minute mark, Locatelli put a corner onto the head of Gatti, who beat 2 Inter defenders in the air to give us back the lead. I am exhausted already. But anything we can do, Inter can do as well. Or so they thought. Szczesny got down low and made an important save from an Inter corner, but when he can't make the save, it's the woodwork that helped us out, denying Barella and keeping us in front at the break. The second half started quietly, but we were the better of the 2 sides, patiently passing the ball around and waiting to work the ball into the box. But as Cambiasso thought he'd got past Dumfries, he tripped him up and the referee awarded us a penalty. Somehow Dumfries wasn't given a second yellow card, but it doesn't matter when we go 3-1 up. So it was time to make a few changes to keep things fresh, and one of our substitutes, Milik, had a point to prove, receiving the ball in the area and firing in a 4th goal. However, the VAR pulled it back and ruled the goal out for offside. But he wasn't going to let that deter him. As we worked the ball down the near side, Vlahovic won a ball over the top into the area, squared it across to Milik, and finally he got his goal, taking us to an incredible 4-1 win on the opening day. If we play as well as that across the entire season, we could win the title in our first season, especially as we have no European football to distract us. If we're going to win a sneaky league title, this is the year to do it. We continued our impressive start by beating Torino 4-0 at home, but we did succumb to our first loss of the season as Roma beat us 2-0 in the capital. And after Giroud headed AC Milan in front, we had to rely on a Vlahovic penalty to earn us a 1-1 draw. The Serbian was by far our best attacker. He scored in a 4-0 win over Sassuolo, got himself a brace in a 4-0 win over Lecce in front of our home fans, and then scored 2 minutes into another 4-0 win, this time over Empoli, grabbing a second goal in the game 2 minutes before the end of time. Other than the Roma and AC Milan result, as well as a draw against Inter Milan at the start of November, we'd been incredible, and deservedly sat on top of the table a third of the way into the season. However, in December, we did start to slip up. Out of nowhere, Genoa scored 4 past us, including one from Cody de Winter, who's on loan from us to Genoa. And then we also conceded 4 against Cagliari as they totally trounced us. So I think we're going to need some reinforcements in January. We're using the real world game mode, which means all real life transfers happen on the exact same day in game. This means we have defender Thiago Dallo arriving on the 22nd of January, as well as Carlos Alcaraz arriving on deadline day to add some attacking options. But before then, we have the Coppa Italia to win. We enter in at the 3rd round, and Dusan Vlahovic scored a brace to help us beat Salernitana 2-0 at home. He then scored the only goal of the quarterfinals to beat Lazio and send us to the semis. The best part about the Coppa Italia is there aren't many rounds, so there aren't many games to play. We'll pick back up with this later on in the season. As in the meantime, Vlahovic was also scoring in the league, helping us get revenge over 10-man Roma by beating them 2-0 at our place. He also scored the only goal of the game in the 95th minute against Sassuolo to crucially win us the match, keeping us 3 points ahead of Inter Milan and 5 points ahead of AC Milan, 2/3 of the way through the season. But I fear things might be starting to fall apart. Despite going down to 10 men, Fiorentina still managed to find a way to score past us twice and beat us in Florence. Then, after Kostic gave us a lead just before half-time, Salernitana equalised in the 93rd minute. And so this gave Inter Milan the opportunity to overtake us with 8 games to go. So let's shift our attention back to the Coppa Italia. And we need to beat Roma over 2 legs. Luckily, Chiesa scored the only goal of the first leg and the entire tie, but we will miss him for the final thanks to a red card. Cambiasso is also out for the final, meaning that De Sciglio's first game back after a 10-month injury is the cup final against Inter Milan. Early on, we cleared a corner, but Inter kept coming back at us. Initially, we cleared their cross and blocked Barella's effort, but Fratesi was in the right place at the right time to hand Inter the lead. Then, minutes later, DiMarco's free kick hit the woodwork and rebounded to the feet of Bastoni, who just couldn't miss. Half-time, and we are down bad. The game was then killed off in the 60th minute. Weston McKennie lost the ball in the midfield, and very quickly it was put through to Thuram, who scored past Szczesny to win Inter Milan the Coppa Italia. So we aren't adding that trophy to our cabinet just yet. But we still have a shot in the league. Milik scored to help us beat Frosinone for a good start. Chiesa's goal just before half-time ensured we won an important game over Napoli 2-1. Then he scored a brace as we beat Hellas Verona 4-0, and then he added another to his tally in a 3-1 win over Atalanta. And after a 6-game drought, Vlahovic scored in a 5-1 win over Genoa. But we could only manage a draw away at Udinese, which is the difference between us and Inter. Whilst we won 5 and drew 1, Inter won all 6 of their remaining games, meaning they gain an extra 2 points on us and sit 4 points clear with 2 games to go. We need a miracle. But whilst we beat Cagliari 6-0, Inter beat Roma to lift the title with a game to spare. So we can be pleased that we came so close to doing the double, but this challenge isn't about coming close, it's about winning. So now we only have 19 seasons left to win all 13 trophies. So I'm feeling pretty sad about that. It's not the ideal start to the video, and today is my birthday. So to cheer me up for my birthday, I want all of you right now to press the like button and subscribe to the channel. It is my birthday, so you have to. Vlahovic scored 25 goals in the league to top the league scoring charts, and I'm pretty happy with my strikers overall. But I want to use our £47 million of budget to bring players in to play my system. So I'm looking for a right back, a right winger, and a centre mid. And for just £13 million up front, we signed right back Victor Gomez from Braga. Then for a bargain £16 million, we picked up Dani Ceballos from Real Madrid. And finally for £19 million, we signed Albert Gudmundsson from Genoa, who will compete with Matthias Sola, who returns from the club after being out on loan last season, for the right wing position. And it was Albert who scored our first goal of the season against Lazio, a perfect start for him, whilst Victor Gomez had a less than ideal start when he was sent off in the 45th minute. But thankfully, we won the game in the 94th minute thanks to a Kenan Yildiz free kick. Koni de Winter then got his first goal for the club after being out on loan last season, whilst Cambiasso scored in a 4-0 win over Torino. But Rafael Leao scored the only goal of the game as we lost away at AC Milan. Of course, this season we are back fighting on 3 fronts as we are once again in the Champions League. However, we have been given a very tough draw. But Weston McKennie scored a brace in a 5-0 win over Freiburg to get us off to the perfect start. But despite going 2-0 up against 10-man Benfica inside of 10 minutes, they fought back to draw the match 2-2. And that led us to losing 2-0 to Sporting in Portugal, leaving us feeling pretty low. But Chiesa was able to score the only goal of the game against Brest to get us back on track. Dani Ceballos scored his first Champions League goal for us as we beat PSV, but we had a disaster against Man City, going down to 10 men in the first minute of the game and losing 2 key players to injury as we lost. Luckily, neither of them turned out to be long-term injuries. This leaves us 12th in the league phase, almost certain to qualify for the knockouts. As for the league, Inter Milan also beat us. But after that, we won our next 12 games in a row, an incredible run of form that saw us top the table on New Year's Eve, 1 point ahead of AC Milan. But we were also top of the table at this point last season, and look how that turned out. So when we did end up playing them at the end of January, it was imperative that we didn't lose. And despite taking the lead in the game twice, we ended up drawing the match 2-2. But that's a much better result for us than it is for AC Milan. We were also able to put 3 goals past Inter Milan to win the Derby d'Italia, but Belotti's 95th minute goal for Roma was enough for them to beat us. So whilst we do stay ahead of AC Milan by a point, they do have a game in hand on us. In the meantime, we drew with Celtic and beat Stuttgart in the Champions League, qualifying us for the knockout playoff round. Here we get a rematch against Benfica, and in Portugal, despite conceding within 60 seconds, we fought back with goals from Chiesa and Vlahovic, who was helped by Trubin's terrible passing. He also scored in the second leg to win the tie 3-1 and progress. But in between those games, we suffered a heavy defeat to Fiorentina, which means we now have to play catch-up to AC Milan, who still have a game in hand over us. Then any hope of winning the Champions League this season was put to bed when Manchester United beat us 3-2 in Turin. 2 goals for the Red Devils in Manchester then knocked us out in the round of 16. But at least we can now focus on the league and the cup. Or maybe just the league, as we lose to Inter Milan in the Coppa d'Italia semi-finals. And we might have to kiss goodbye to a league title as well, as we lose 2-0 away to Monza, whilst Genoa's 82nd minute goal won them the match 3-2, which leaves us 7 points adrift with 5 games to go. And despite winning 4 of our last 5, so did AC Milan to win the title by 7 points. It is not lost on me how we could have chosen AC Milan to start the video with, but we didn't. Scoring isn't an issue for us, so what we need to do is improve our defence over summer. But I am getting nervous because we still haven't got a trophy in the cabinet. Now, if we'd spend all our time equally in all the 5 leagues we need to win trophies in, we'd spend 4 seasons in each league. However, the best jobs where we're going to win the title, like a Man City or a Real Madrid, are only going to come up if the manager at those clubs decides to retire. So really, when we do move somewhere else, we're going to have to go to a second-rate team and do a mini rebuild with them, which takes time. So Juventus was meant to be our gimme league right at the start, win it quickly and maximise the time we have at other clubs down the line. But so far, that's not worked out. Heading into season 3, we've been given £40 million to spend. And for just £20 million, we signed transfer-listed João Cancelo from Man City. Then, after a couple of sales, we brought in Riccardo Calafiori for £26.5 million from Bologna. And finally, we signed Dennis Seaman for £9 million from Stuttgart to be the long-term replacement for Szczesny. See, I am being nice. I'm thinking about the long-term signings for Juventus, even though we're probably going to move on in a few seasons' time. Not because I'm scared we're going to be here for another 4, 5, 6 seasons and I need the best players possible. This is our strongest squad yet, and we need it to win. But an opening day 1-0 loss to Inter was the worst possible start. Fortunately, we did announce ourselves with a huge 4-0 win against Roma as Vlahovic got up and running for the season. We then bettered that result by beating Udinese 5-0, with Dusan scoring a hat-trick to show he means business this season and wants a trophy. We also rescued a 1-1 draw away at AC Milan, scoring in the 90th minute. However, we also lost 2-0 at home against Genoa, whilst Caleb Okoli scored for Napoli as they beat us 1-0. As a result, a third of the way into the season, we're 4th in the table and 11 points off the pace. A complete disaster. But things did start to pick up, as Vlahovic's brace saw us beat Atalanta away from home, before we scored twice in the 90th minute in Rome to beat Lazio 2-0 and pick up 3 really important points. Staying in Rome, it was Chiesa's turn to score a brace, as we beat Roma 2-0. But it was Vlahovic's 2 goals that were the most important, as we beat AC Milan 2-0 to assert ourselves as title contenders this season. But then a draw against Inter, Udinese, and a loss to Salernitana were far from ideal. With 12 games to go, we're third in the table, 9 points behind Napoli. However, we might have a good shot of the Champions League, as we did really well in a tough league phase to finish in 5th place and get a bye into the round of 16. We've been drawn against big rivals Inter Milan, and we had the worst possible start as Barella was fouled in the area, giving Inter a penalty 2 minutes in, which of course they scored. On the night, they were the better side and deserved their second goal. But in the 93rd minute, Kenan Yildiz gave us a lifeline by making the score 2-1. In the second leg, Dani Ceballos scored in the 6th minute to make it 2-2 on aggregate, which gave us the confidence to go on and dominate the game. As Vlahovic scored, Albert Gudmundsson got our third on the night, before we made it 5-2 on aggregate late in the game. Inter did get a consolation, but we did enough to progress to the quarterfinals, where we've been matched with Chelsea. At home, we raced into a 2-0 lead, Federico Chiesa scoring both of the goals before 30 minutes had even been played. But Chelsea fought back, with Nicholas Jackson scoring in the 32nd minute, before Ben Chilwell equalised minutes into the second half. But Matthias Suller beat Chilwell in the air to head home a late winner, giving us the advantage as we head to London. However, Moises Caicedo scored 6 minutes into the game to level the scores on aggregates. And just as we thought we're going to extra time, in the 93rd minute, Benoit Badiashile scored from a corner to knock us out of Europe. As we played those games, we'd won 4 and lost 2 matches in Serie A. But despite those losses, we had reduced the deficit to just 7 points with 6 games to go. This might be possible. We smashed Atalanta 4-0 at home for the perfect start to the run. Sassuolo took the lead against us at their place, and 22 minutes in, Cancelo was sent off for 2 yellow cards, but we fought back through Locatelli and a brace from Dani Ceballos minutes either side of half-time to win the game 3-1. Vlahovic then scored a brace as we swept aside Bologna 4-0, and we just managed to beat Monza 1-0 thanks to a Dani Ceballos goal. He also got the only goal of the game in a crucial 1-0 win over Lazio. But Vlahovic finished the season in style, scoring a hat-trick to win 4-0 on the final day of the season as we travel to Torino. But did we lift the title? No. We missed out again, this time by the smallest margin of just 3 points. We also lost in the Coppa Italia third round, which means we've made no progress with our trophy cabinet this season. I think it just took a little too long to click, and I think next season will be our year. But how many times have I been saying that so far, and it's not happened? I do think we have a great team, and we're just 1 or 2 players away from the Serie A title. So we need to use our £55 million budget to improve our squad depth. Although in the end, we didn't actually spend that much money, because contracts in Saudi Arabia are coming to an end. So on a free transfer, we signed Frank Kessie, Alan Saint-Maximin, and Gabri Veiga, all from Al Ahly. That means they were all teammates together, so they should have some unreal chemistry as all 3 of them join the team. We also signed Patrick Dorgu from Lecce for £20 million, as well as Elia Caprier for just £1.4 million from Napoli to play second fiddle to Dennis Seaman this season as we've let go of Szczesny. Finally, we picked up Moro Petkovic for just shy of £17 million to replace the outgoing Koni de Winter. I cannot wait to see the damage that this team can do this season. Although an opening day 0-0 draw wasn't really ideal, but beating Torino 10-1 the following game with 6 different goal scorers is certainly more like it. But we still couldn't beat Inter Milan, and we also drew with Salernitana as Locatelli was sent off. And to make matters worse, we ended up losing 2-1 to Fiorentina and to Parma by the same scoreline, who won the game with a 93rd minute winner. But we had won 9 other games, meaning just over a third of the way into the season, we sit 3rd in the table. We got a few more huge wins, as we beat Genoa 5-0 at home, Monza 4-0 away, with Gabri Veiga getting on the score sheet, while St Maximin scored in the 96th minute to beat Torino 4-1 away. But we still can't beat AC Milan, And despite taking the lead against Inter through Chiesa, they came back and scored 2 goals to win the match. So whilst it is really frustrating we just cannot seem to beat the Milan sides, they keep slipping up against everyone else, whereas we keep winning. We beat the likes of Lazio, Cagliari and Empoli with an Albert Gudmundsson hat-trick. And as a result, we sit 5 points clear of Inter Milan with a game in hand. Plus, we'd also had an incredible league phase in the Champions League, winning 7 of our 8 games, including scalps over Real Madrid and Bayern Munich to top the league phase table, going straight through to the round of 16. Here, we've been drawn against Chelsea, who knocked us out last season, and we drew the first leg in London 1-1. But Chelsea took the lead in Turin, putting us on the back foot. But in the second half, we pounced on a defensive error for Vlahovic to score, taking the game to extra time, where there was a foul in the penalty area following a corner, which allowed Dusan to win us the game and progress. Benfica await us in the quarter-finals, and we took the lead in the 74th minute, before then doubling our lead 2 minutes later. In the second leg though, Benfica scored first through Morato. But late on, we equalised on the night to win the tie 3-1 on aggregate, which means we're going to the semi-finals to take on Porto. Victor Gomez scored the only goal of the first leg in Portugal to give us a narrow lead. In Italy, Vlahovic scored in the first half before Chiesa sealed the win in the 57th minute to send us to the Champions League final. In the meantime, we're being chased down by Napoli and Fiorentina in Serie A. But we beat Napoli 2-1 thanks to a late Frank Kessie penalty, and we dispatched a Fiorentina 2-0 at home, which means with 5 games to go, we have a 6-point cushion at the top of the table. And we might even be on for the treble, because once again we've made it to the Coppa Italia final for a second time, but this time we play against Monza for the trophy. The first chance of the game fell to us. We played some beautiful passes to get the ball through to Vlahovic, but he somehow put his shot wide of the mark. Minutes later though, when he was given a second chance from further out, he fired his thunderous shot in off the crossbar to give us the lead. But of course, we let our focus drop, allowing Monza through. But luckily for us, Dennis Seaman had kept his focus and made a huge save to keep us in the lead. The only other chance of the first half came when Patrick Dorgu had a low shot deflected wide, meaning we hold on to a narrow 1-0 lead at the break. We needed an early goal in the second half. So when Joao Cancelo was allowed to waltz into the area and put in a low cross, the ball fell to Gabri Veiga, who put it in the back of the net, although it did officially go down as an own goal. Another chance came our way moments later, but the header sent the ball narrowly over the crossbar. But in the 82nd minute of the game, a ball was sent into the penalty area and Vlahovic was clearly pushed in the back and went down. The referee pointed to the spot, and Fagioli's first touch of the ball after coming on as a substitute was to put it in the back of the net, giving us a 3-0 lead. Monza were not giving up though, and they came close as they hit the crossbar late on, but it would have taken a miracle for them to get back in the game, especially after we scored our 4th goal in the 89th minute to seal the victory and finally lift our first trophy of the Glory Hunter Challenge, the Coppa Italia. Doesn't it look nice in our trophy cabinet? As for the league, the nerves were getting to us as we drew 0-0 with Genoa. However, we got back to winning ways against Monza as we won 3-0 at home before going to Bologna and recording a 6-3 win, which means with 2 games to go, we are 4 points ahead of our closest rivals Napoli, which means if we beat Udinese in our penultimate game, we'll win Juventus their first title in 7 seasons. The match itself wasn't particularly exciting. There wasn't a single highlight in the first half, with both team shots being really low quality. So at the break, I told the players I was not happy. And this got a reaction, as 10 minutes into the second half, Cancelo put a great ball into the path of St. Maximin, but his shot was parried behind by the keeper. So as the game ticked on, it was clear we had to make some changes. So off come Chiesa, Gudmundsson and ASM for Yildiz, Vlahovic and Sula. But they didn't have much of an impact until the 85th minute, when we won the ball at the back, worked it forwards into the middle to find Vlahovic, who fired a powerful effort into the top corner, giving us the lead until the 92nd minute, when Udinese lined up a free kick. And that Dennis Seaman save won us the match and the Serie A title, meaning we get to add a Scudetto to our trophy cabinet and complete the Italian leg of our Glory Hunter challenge. But we could also be adding the Champions League trophy to the cabinet this season. However, we're going to have to do it without Dusan Vlahovic and Gabri Veiga, who are both ruled out through injury, whilst we're taking a big risk on Joao Cancelo, who's just getting back to full fitness. This means the challenge of PSG is going to be even harder than it already would have been with a full strength team. And it was made even harder 15 minutes in when Joao Cancelo's injury was aggravated and he was forced off the pitch. 2 minutes later, and we were looking complacent, giving the ball away in the attacking third. Luckily, we did force Mbappe to shoot from distance, and Seaman was on hand to make the save, meaning we go into half-time drawing 0-0, but we're on the back foot. The entire game was incredibly cagey, and neither side were creating many chances. 67 minutes in, and we'd still only had the one match highlight. So we made some changes, but even they didn't help, as the entire second half went by without a highlight, until the 93rd minute, where Rabiot put a ball over the top, but no one was in the middle to tap it home. We did win the ball back and recycle possession out wide. The cross was deflected, but Donnarumma was well positioned to stop it going in the back of the net. This means we're going to extra time, but we are the team on top. Now it's all about who has the legs to go the distance, and it looked like it might be us, as Dani Ceballos was brought down in the penalty area and the referee pointed straight to the spot. Kessie stepped up and gave us the lead. We have 20 minutes to hold on. But we almost conceded straight from kickoff. As the ball was put through for Mbappe, Seaman got there first, but the ball went straight to Lamina, whose shot, luckily for us, wasn't very good. In the second half of extra time, he was then given another chance, but Seaman made himself big and blocked the effort, which turned out to be a game-winning save. Incredibly, we've done the treble this season, ticking off one of the hardest trophies to win in Glory Hunter. Or is it? We've got 16 seasons left to win 8 domestic trophies, as well as the Europa and Conference League. So what we need to do is find a team that's down on its luck, i.e. they've missed out on the Champions League and are qualified for the Europa League or the Conference League instead. But they have the potential to go on to win the title. So I'm thinking kind of like a Dortmund, they've missed out on the Champions League, but they do have the potential to build back and win the Bundesliga. But obviously, jobs like that don't come around very often. But there might be a perfect candidate available right now. The Villarreal job is available, having just sacked manager Daniel Farke for only being able to finish in 7th place in La Liga. So, I'm going to apply for the job. And 4 weeks later, I was invited to the interview. But there's no way at this pace we're going to get through 20 seasons in one video. So we're making this a mini-series. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next video, where we find out if we're going to get the Villarreal job or we have to look elsewhere.